Welcome to the PM Logic. Today we are going to review the foundation of project management, what it really means, how it differs from general management, and how project managers actually make things happen in the real world environments. By and large, many professionals use the term project loosely. However, when you truly understand the foundation, you start seeing structure behind what often looks like chaos. In this video, I'll break down what a project actually is, how project management principles apply, why structure matters, and how projects ultimately serve strategies. If you want to understand project management beyond definitions and start thinking like a structured leader, this video is for you. Let's begin with fundamentals. What is a project and what is management? Generally speaking, a project is a temporary venture undertaken to create a unique outcome. Temporary does not mean short, it simply means it has a defined beginning and a defined end. Unique means the outcome has not existed in exactly that form before. For example, building a new hospital wing is a project. Launching a new product line is a project. Now, management overall is about achieving objectives through people while balancing efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is doing things right, and effectiveness is doing the right things. By and large, every manager performs five core functions: planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. Whether you knowingly think about it or not, you are operating within these functions. Project management simply applies these principles to temporary and structured change. Now let's combine these two ideas. Project management overall converts strategy into the structured execution. Organizations create strategy at the top level, but strategy only becomes real through projects. It's also important to distinguish between projects and operations. Projects are temporary and produce unique outcomes. However, operations are ongoing and repetitive. For example, implementing a new CRM system is a project. Using that CRM daily to serve customers is operations. Overall, effective project management provides better cost control, higher quality, predictable timelines, improved customer satisfaction, and reduced risk and rework. When scope is clear, risks are managed, and communication is structured, issues are addressed before they become crisis. Talking about the constraints. Every project operates within constraints. Generally, those constraints are scope, time, and budget. If you increase scope, either time or budget must increase. If you reduce budget, either scope or timeline must adjust. For example, imagine a client wants additional feature without extending the deadline. That means more resources are required. If resources are not added, quality may suffer. If you look at a bigger picture, trade offs are inevitable. Balancing those trade offs is part of leadership. Managing this golden triangle is not administrative work, it's decision making under pressure to deliver the project outcome. Let's talk about stakeholders. Projects do not exist in isolation, they exist within ecosystems. Stakeholders include sponsors who own the business case, project manager who is accountable for delivery, team members executing the technical work, customers benefiting from outcomes, and suppliers and vendors supporting the execution. Generally, stakeholder misalignment is one of the leading cause of project failure. For example, if a sponsor wants speed, but the operation team prioritizes cost control, then a conflict will emerge. In reality, stakeholder management is about alignment, expectation setting, and communication clarity. Let's shift focus to the teams. A group is simply people interacting, whereas a team is people committed to a shared goal. Generally, small teams between 2 and 9 members perform more effectively because communication is clearer and accountability is stronger. Teams also operate within structures such as functional, matrix, and projectized. In a functional organization, authority sits with department heads, and in a strong matrix or projectized environment, the project manager has greater authority. Overall, structure of teams in the organizations impact the influence. Teams evolve over time. Tuckman's model explains the stages: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. In practice, storming is often uncomfortable. When conflict arises, expectations clash, and power dynamics surface. However, storming is necessary as it clarifies the boundaries and the roles. Strong project managers guide teams through this evolution rather than reacting emotionally. Talking about the program and portfolio management. As organizations scale, governance become more complex. A program is a group of related projects managed together for greater benefit. For example, a digital transformation initiative may include multiple streams, including system upgrades, software upgrades, and network upgrades, which are managed collectively as a program. A portfolio selects the right projects to align with strategy. Broadly speaking, project deliver outputs, program deliver benefits, and portfolio deliver strategy. This distinction is critical for executive thinking. From the project management approach perspective, not all projects should be managed the same way. By and large, one of the biggest mistakes organizations make is forcing a single methodology across all initiatives regardless of complexity and uncertainty. Traditionally, the waterfall approach works well when scope is clearly defined and requirements are stable. For example, infrastructure projects like building bridges, highway, or regulatory compliance initiatives benefit from a sequential structure where each phase must be completed before the next begins. In such environments, predictability matters more than flexibility. On the other hand, agile methodologies are better suited for environments where uncertainty is high and requirements evolve rapidly. A real world example is the development of COVID 19 vaccines. During the pandemic, information about the virus was constantly changing, and waiting for a fully sequential process would have slowed progress significantly. Instead, teams worked in iterative cycles, running trials, analyzing interim data, refining protocols, and adopting quickly as new insights emerged. This feedback driven approach allowed organizations to move faster while still maintaining safety standards. Overall, Agile works best when learning is continuous and decisions must adjust to the new information. Next is iterative approach. It focuses on refining and improving the same solution through repeated cycles using feedback to progressively enhance the final outcome. For example, a mobile app may launch with a basic interface and then continuously improve usability and performance in future updates. In comparison, the incremental approach delivers the solution in smaller, usable parts over time, allowing stakeholders to start realizing value before the entire project is complete. For example, a banking app may first release account viewing features, then later add payments and investment options. Then there is a hybrid approach, which overall blends structured governance with adaptive delivery. For instance, a financial institution may use Waterfall for regulatory documentation and risk approvals, however, Agile for developing customer facing applications. Generally speaking, the approach should match the level of uncertainty, stakeholder involvement, and risk profile of the organization. When complexity increases, adaptability becomes more important, and when regulatory oversight increases, structures become critical. In practice, approach is not about trends, it's about a good fit. Talking about the project management lifecycle, every project moves through phases including initiating, planning, executing, and closing. Generally, the initiating phase establishes the foundation, defining the objectives, identifying the stakeholders, and validating the business case. Without clarity at this stage, projects begin on unstable ground. Planning phase. Overall, this is where structure is created. Scope is defined, timelines are estimated, budgets are approved, risks are identified, communication plans are established. By and large, this phase determines the project's probability of success more than execution itself. Next phase is execution. It is where teams perform the actual work. However, execution without monitoring is risky. That's why monitoring and controlling operate alongside execution. Planning reduces uncertainty, but over planning slows momentum and under planning creates chaos. Generally speaking, planning efforts should be proportional to risk and complexity. Closing phase. It is often overlooked. However, it ensures formal acceptance, documentation of lesson learned, and proper handover to operations. In practice, failure to close properly leads to unresolved risk and unclear ownership. Overall, the life cycle provides structured progression and not rigidity. Let's step back for a moment and ask a fundamental question. Why do projects even exist? Projects, by and large, are not initiated randomly. They exist to respond to specific business drivers and organizational needs. Generally speaking, a project is launched to meet legal or regulatory requirements. For example, implementing a new compliance controls after a regulatory update. In other cases, projects are initiated to satisfy customer or stakeholder needs, such as enhancing a product feature based on user feedback. Overall, many projects are created to implement business or technology strategies. For instance, launching a digital transformation initiative to stay competitive in the market, and sometimes projects simply aim to improve or fix existing products, services, or processes that are no longer efficient. In practice, every project should clearly connect to a defined purpose. If that purpose is unclear, alignment becomes difficult and momentum eventually declines. Let's talk about project management processes. A process is simply a set of activities producing a result. The PMBOK framework defines 5 process groups and numerous processes. For example, developing a charter, managing risks, controlling scope, and so on. Processes bring repeatability and discipline. Let's discuss about knowledge areas. Project management includes structured knowledge areas that ensure balance across different dimensions of the execution. Core areas focus on scope, schedule, cost, and quality. These define what will be delivered, when it will be delivered, at what cost, and at what standard. Enabling areas include communication, resources, and procurement. Generally speaking, even technically strong project fails when communication breakdowns or when resources allocation is unclear. Governance areas include integration, stakeholders, and risk. Integration ensures all moving parts remain aligned. Stakeholder management ensures expectations are controlled. Risk management identifies threat and opportunities proactively. If you look at a bigger picture, knowledge areas create balance between execution and oversight. They prevent overfocus on one dimension at the expense of another. For example, a project may deliver on time and within budget but fail to meet expectations of the stakeholders. Technically successful but strategically unsuccessful. By and large, knowledge areas exist to prevent that imbalance. Moving on to why projects fail. Projects generally fail due to unclear scope, weak alignment, poor risk management, or lack of executive sponsorship. However, if you look deeper, failure is rarely about tools or software. It is usually structural or behavioral. For example, unclear scope leads to scope creep. Scope creep increases cost and timeline pressure. That pressure leads to quality compromises. Eventually, stakeholder dissatisfaction emerges. Similarly, weak sponsorship often results in slow decision making, delays create uncertainty, and team loses momentum, and the confidence of the team declines. Poor risk management overall is not about missing obvious risks. It's about failing to act on early warning signals. Overall, project failure starts small. It begins with minor misalignment that compounds over time. Successful project managers do not just manage tasks, also they monitor signals. They identify patterns and intervene early. Misalignment destroys momentum and alignment creates velocity. Talking about leadership, authority, and power. Now, let's look at where projects sit within the broader management structure. Organizations generally operate across 3 levels of management. At the top level, top management defines strategy and long term vision. They decide where the organization is going and what competitive position it aims to achieve. Senior leadership overall translates that strategy into the structured initiatives and programs. Then, prioritized investment, allocate resources, and define which projects should move forward. At the operational or project level, execution happens. This is where project managers and team make things happen day to day by delivering outputs. By and large, strategy is conceived at the top, structured in the middle, and executed at the operational level. Projects act as the bridge between vision and reality. Let's bring together everything. From core concepts viewpoint, a project is temporary and delivers a unique outcome. Project management applies structure, discipline, and leadership to execute a strategy. From structure and control, as well as people and leadership lens, methodology must match uncertainty, planning must match risk, and leadership must match complexity. From a strategic management perspective, projects create outputs, program deliver benefits, and portfolio execute a strategy. In reality, good project management is about doing things right and ensuring you are doing the right things. Ultimately, project management is disciplined execution in uncertain environments, and when done properly, it transforms ideas into measurable impacts.